John Fortt's with me here, having come in last night. High temperature today, 107 degrees, so they got the short sleeves going.
Absolutely.
We've talked a lot this morning about the companies we've heard from so far, Facebook, Twitter, but Susan Wojcicki's appearance last night from YouTube talking regulation, John. What was the mood in the room during that conversation?
I think everybody was tense for her, actually. She seemed to me to be back on her heels for pretty much the whole conversation. And granted, she was taking incoming pressure from just a number of different fronts. She was talking about the possibility of a breakup. She was questioned about that. Didn't really have an answer for that. A lot on content policy, though, and how YouTube makes decisions about what to leave up, what to demonetize, whether it's really capable of getting ahead of this problem of figuring out what sort of content is out there. Here's her response to a question about exactly that, how they deal with content. Take a listen.
At the end of the day, we're an information company. We have the access to Google, some of the algorithms there. We have the resources to deploy. We've committed to having, last year we committed to having over 10,000 people who are working on controversial content. And so I see how much progress that we have already made. We actually have just made changes to our recommendation algorithms as well for not violative content, but borderline content. And we announced that we've seen a 50% reduction in the views coming from recommendations from that.
And that access to Google, Carl, is a key point here. You heard this, echoes of this, not only from Susan Wojcicki, but also from Mosseri from Instagram, also from Jassy from Amazon, this idea that the fact that we're connected to this bigger company is good. It allows us to get ahead of problems, to have answers to some of these issues. So even when she wasn't directly talking about don't break us up, that was the implication.
Right. You mentioned Andy Jassy, of course, the CEO of Amazon Web Services, who sort of, I think, arguably took a Nadella-like tone, meaning you respect the client and their willingness to share stuff with you. In return, that you get some of their information. It's very much a currency exchange of sorts.
Yeah, he's really sitting pretty right now. Amazon Web Services, he talked about that they're growing 41% year over year, more than a $30 billion run rate just for AWS. So he wasn't under the same kind of pressure because that's more of an enterprise conversation. But there was kind of talk about, in this era of Internet of Things, of the cloud, where people are concerned about where their data is going, how much it's being collected, what's the answer for people? And it's interesting. He talked about how customers need to be able to trust the provider. Take a listen to a little bit of what he said.
The promise and the capabilities you can provide customers is really amazing, but you're going to want to make sure whoever you use that you understand their rules on privacy and how they manage their data, and you have to believe they're going to keep the data secure. And if you don't trust that company, then you shouldn't use them.
The difficult thing here, Carl, is the things that are being sold to consumers, you know, these smart speakers in the home, some of them have screens, et cetera, their setup is being kind of simple on a telephone metaphor. I think a lot of people aren't thinking about, where is this data being stored? What other data on me do they have that it's being connected to? Maybe enterprises, companies are more savvy, but the way people are using, the way companies are using these cloud platforms to deploy these information gathering systems, I think there's a question about how much are they going to have to disclose about what they're keeping on you?
Right. I mean, you go through Netflix and there's suggestions for you. That's not random, right? It's coming from behavior patterns that you are providing to the company.
And at least on Netflix, it's based on behavior patterns on Netflix that you're providing to the company. I think people's concerns are when you're dealing with Google, when you're dealing with Facebook, a lot of people don't realize how the like button is able to track you across the web, other things you're looking at. People have become aware of retargeting because it's like, hey, that thing I was looking at on Amazon or on this random site over here is now showing up in Facebook. Are they following me? Yes, they're following you. And if you use a device in your home, I think it's unclear to people how much they're following there, too.
We talked with Kramer this morning about where liability really lies in terms of regulation, crackdown from governments here and abroad. Is the line enterprise and non-enterprise? Is it about companies that are consumer-facing, and those are the ones who really need to lobby up?
Well, Carl, I think it depends on what type of regulation or what types of changes you're looking at. Andy Jassy was asked about what if you're forced to break up. And he, I think very smartly said, well, if we're forced to break up, then we'll break up. We're a U.S. company. We'll deal with it. So even as an enterprise arm of Amazon, there is some potential impact for Andy Jassy and AWS if certain types of regulation come down. But certainly on the privacy side and the use of data, that really seems to be more of a consumer-focused issue.